just eating fatty animal meat. And there's a little bit of an extra part to my story. 3 weeks into eating this way, I was hospitalized.
Emily, how did you find Carnivore?
So I found Carnivore through my brother. My brother listened for years. My brother and my dad and I have been listening to Dr. Jordan B. Peterson for years, and we've followed his just mind-blowing videos and lectures and everything, and we've just been captivated by Jordan Peterson for years. And then my brother was having irritable bowel syndrome. He was having just all sorts of problems with his gut and couldn't solve it. And then he listened to Jordan Peterson talk about it on, I believe, Joe Rogan, and talk about Michaela's experience. And so my brother started on his own journey, and we talked about him. We talked about him, and we were like, okay, Ben's lost it. He's crazy. He even was eating it raw from a farm. And so he was eating raw meat. And we were like, yeah, he's gone. He's crazy. He's lost it. There's no way. All he's eating is meat, and all he's eating is raw meat. And then my brother, who's kind of a prickly pear, like he's not really like a nice guy, he did something nice to me. And so that got my attention. I was just like, what? Ben cares about me? Like, what's going on? What's happening here? And I have suffered for years with debilitating mental illness. I've had bipolar disorder. And at my most, I was on 900 milligrams of lithium, 80 milligrams of Prozac, 80 milligrams of Adderall just to get out of bed every day, and then Ambien to sleep every night. And I still wasn't functioning. And that didn't bode well for my career, because my career is in mental health. I have my license, my master's in clinical counseling. I was a licensed professional counselor, and I went crazy. My bipolar disorder was managed with medication for years. And by managed, I mean it kept me out of the psych ward, and it kept me from taking my own life. But I was not functioning. About 3 days out of the week, I would be able to perform. I would be able to function. I would be able to do my job to the best of my ability. And I knocked it out of the park. I was incredible. But what everybody didn't know is that the other days of the week, I was in bed in the fetal position, wanting to not wake up the next day. So the fall of 2018, my bipolar went into rapid cycling. And so instead of getting a relief during the cycles of a year or months or days, I didn't know who I was from one day to the next. It was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And then it became unethical for me to practice, because I couldn't just reschedule like I would go and have my morning appointments, and then I'd hit 11 o'clock and I'd lose my mind, and I'd have to reschedule the whole rest of the day. And so it became unethical. I had to walk away from my practice, and I had to move in with my mother at the age of 40. And talk about like bottom of the barrel. Like, it was like the bottom of the pit, and then I dug a trench. Like, my self-loathing was off the charts. And at that moment, my brother reached out to me, and he sent me the first chapter of the book by Amber O'Hearn. And she resolved bipolar disorder 10 years previous to then. Now it's been 15 years. And she did it by eating fatty animal meat. And I heard her story, and something came over me. And I felt like the guy in Dumb and Dumber. And I was like, you're telling me there's a chance? Like, I was willing to do anything to experience even a glimpse of relief from bipolar disorder. And so February 24th of 2019, I went from eating ramen noodles and chips and pizzas and ice cream and beer and all the things to eating animal meat and animal fat. I ate ribeyes and burgers and ribs and chicken with the skin on and chicken wings and fatty pork butt and salmon and shrimp and crawfish, anything that was animal meat and animal fat. And I focused on the fat. And in April of 2019, I had my last manic or bipolar, manic or depressive episode. And my psychiatrist, who I'd been working with for years, saw light in my eyes for the first time. And I went back to work in June of 2019, went back to my private practice and knocked it out of the park. And then my psychiatrist started to taper me off of all my meds. And my last psych med was September of 2019. I've been stable, haven't gone back to the psych ward, haven't even had a bad day, much less depression, much less suicidal ideation, much less a psych ward, just eating fatty animal meat. And there's a little bit of an extra part to my story. 3 weeks into eating this way, I was hospitalized. All of a sudden, my throat wouldn't swallow. I couldn't even swallow water. It's called acute dysphagia. And they took me in and they did a barium swallow test, and they found out that there was no mechanical obstruction, that it was neurological. They gave me an MRI and they found that I had lesions on my brain, and they gave me a lumbar puncture and they diagnosed me with multiple sclerosis. So a logical person would say, oh no, I started this all meat diet and now I'm hospitalized. I can't swallow. Eventually I couldn't walk with multiple sclerosis. I couldn't walk without an assistive device. I had delayed and slurred speech. So a logical person would say, oh, I need to stop eating this crazy diet. I need to go back to chips and Doritos and pizza and soda. But I had this knowing, this inner clarity that I was on the right track. And so I kept eating fatty animal meat, and I researched multiple sclerosis, and I realized that it's a deteriorated myelin sheath on the nerves, and that sheath is made out of fat. So I just kept eating more fat, and I realized that I was on the right track. And I had my last MS symptom May 9th of 2019. I've had multiple MRIs, and they keep showing that the lesions reduce. And my last MRI showed no new MS activity. I haven't had symptoms since May 9th of 2019. I do CrossFit. I lost 120 pounds. I didn't mean to, but I got my life back and then some. And I have more mental clarity now than I have in 20 years. So that's my story.
Wow. So just on, I mean, congratulations. Just on the MS side, on the lesion side, did they tell you at all what was maybe the precursor to those lesions forming? Was it like perhaps being on the meds for a long time or anything like that?
That would be an interesting theory. I mean, it's possible. We have no idea the ramifications of all of those toxins from all those medications for so many years. It's very likely, very possible. But no, I didn't get any answers from the neurologist or the doctors. They're like, we don't know what causes it. And here's some medication. Why don't you inject yourself every 2 days? That was the only answer I got.
And so at that stage, did you feel like, okay, well, I've got to take those meds and injections, or I'm just gonna focus on eating the fat?
Thankfully, my belief was mind over body. So I didn't care what my body did. I got my mind back. So because I ate that fatty animal meat for 3 weeks before I was hospitalized, it didn't matter to me that my body was breaking down and I couldn't walk. I got my mind back for the first time in 40 years. That was gold to me. That was everything to me. And so I just rolled the dice and I gambled. And so far I've won, because not only did it give me my mind back, it gave me my body back too. And carnivore diet didn't cause the MS. Carnivore diet pulled back the curtain and revealed that that's what was really going on under the surface. I look back now, I had symptoms for MS for 10 years. I was having trouble with swallowing for 10 years. Didn't know. I had no idea that it was associated with multiple sclerosis until it became acute.
Wow. And then, so it was basically a month and everything had resolved.
From February 24th to May 9th, that's when
Right.
everything resolved.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. In terms of the MS.
The
diagnosis
MS was
in April.
from March 12th was when I was hospitalized, and my last symptom was May 9th.
Wow. That's amazing. So just taking a step back, when your brother had suggested this, of course you were quite skeptical. He's lost the plot, he's eating raw meat. But when there was that nice gesture and you felt, okay, well, I'm gonna give this a try, didn't you have some kind of skepticism if you've been kind of relying on all these drugs for so long? Did you feel like, oh, am I doing the right thing?
I think that at that point, bipolar disorder became my superpower, because bipolar disorder allows you to make irrational, risky decisions and not care about the consequences and not care about the logic. So I jumped all in because I had bipolar disorder. I was capable of doing that. A typical mind, a neurotypical mind, would have weighed all the cost and set a start date and, asked their brother or asked their mom or asked somebody. I knew in that moment that there was a chance, and I ran for it. I jumped in the deep end and I ran as hard as I could. And like I said, it was a gamble and it paid off.
In your practice, does this kind of the experiences you've had and also finding carnivores, has that impacted your practice at all?
Yeah, I went back to work full-time in June of 2019, and I realized very quickly that I do not fit in the mental health field. I was sitting across from my clients with depression, anxiety, borderline personality disorder, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and I had my hands tied behind my back. I knew what could help them, and I couldn't tell them about it because the insurance panels and the licensing board did not want me talking to my clients about food, because I'm not a registered nutritionist. I'm not a registered dietitian. I don't have the authority to talk to my clients about stopping to eat chips and soda and pizza. So therefore, I said, I don't care about the letters behind my name. Call me a coach. And I moved my entire practice online, which was actually brilliant because licensing requires it to be limited to location. So now that I was out of licensing, and I said, I don't care if you call me a licensed professional, I'm a coach. And I just said, hi, I'm a carnivore coach. And then I was able to help the world. I have clients in New Zealand, the Netherlands, Sweden, Canada, like all over. And I'm able to help more people now because I don't go through insurance panels and licensing board.
And do you find that most of the people you see now get some level of relief from whatever issues they're experiencing if they do make a change to their diet?
Significant. I mean, I'm just a tiny little portion of the world. But in my practice and in my experience, I haven't had one person who's worked with me who has removed sugar and processed food from their diet for a significant amount of time and not had results, not had improvement. I'm not saying that it all went away, because everybody's on a different level of distortion, but it regulated them. It brought them to a place of stability. I haven't had one person that has had not had results.
It's really such a travesty that we've got to this point, though, that corporations are making so much money at the expense of our health, including mental health, you know?
Yeah, it really is. And I don't want to get too much into it, but I think it's by design. I think it was very intentional. And that's why I am one of the most dangerous women on the planet at this time, because I am not controlled by medication. I am not controlled by food. I am not controlled by the medical system. What you got? What else are you going to do?
It feels like reclaiming your power, right?
100%. 100%. And to go from believing that I was broken and realizing that I'm actually brilliant. I had no idea. I thought I was useless and broken and hopeless. I was in this cycle, this hamster wheel of mistakes, of just horrible life decisions. And I had no idea that it was coming from the sugar and the processed food. And I had no idea that what my brain needed was animal fat.
So growing up, did you go through phases of like dieting and, for example, going vegan, going vegetarian, anything like that?
No, I didn't. I was very skinny throughout high school, and then I didn't gain weight until college. But in Southeast Missouri, I didn't think there was anything wrong with me. I was 260 pounds and 5'8", and everyone else looked like a bowling ball. Like, I didn't think there was anything wrong with me because I looked like everybody else. Everybody else in my class or in my whatever, like, we all looked the same. And what I didn't know is that that's not just the way girls in Southeast Missouri are built. That is inflammation. I had so much inflammation in my face and in my body and in my brain. And it wasn't until I reduced that's whenever all the weight came off. I mean, 120 pounds, like, that's crazy. And I wasn't even trying to lose weight.
Yeah, that's an awesome byproduct of fixing up your mental health and stuff like that, right? Is losing weight at the same time.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. I never experienced that.
So how do you eat these days?
So I've gone through quite a few transitions because I think our body is always healing. And we go through different phases and we need different things at different times. And so that's why I named my business Inner Clarity System, because it's not about carnivore. It's not about keto. It's not about anything. It's about that inner knowing and getting that inner clarity of what you need to eat, because all of the answers you are inside of you. You are literally your own user manual. But we go out to this doctor, so-and-so, and this YouTuber, and this, whatever. And we're looking everywhere else for the answers, and the answers are actually within us. And so once we get to that inner clarity, that's where my clients are able to go, oh, I think I'm supposed to eat this. And it might be different than what I eat. But for me, like I said, I started with all the animal meats and animal fats. And then I quickly realized that whenever I was eating chicken, I was getting irritable. I was getting really emotional. And I was on food stamps. So I was eating out of this grocery store. I was just eating whatever they had at Walmart. And so you can imagine that was not the best. It wasn't farm fresh. It wasn't free range. It wasn't all the good things. So I'm not villainizing chicken. I'm just saying that for me, with my food stamps card, chicken from Walmart was not a good option for me. So I realized that I felt best when I ate beef. I even felt kind of icky when I ate pork. I just didn't feel right. And I felt best when I ate beef, fatty beef. And it was right around that time that Mikhaila Peterson coined the term lion diet. And so I have been lion diet ever since then. And I ate cooked for a long time. And then I noticed that I just kept wanting my steak more and more and more rare. And I'm very lazy. And so I enjoyed this way of eating because it's so simple. You just go to the grocery store, you get steaks, you go home and you flip them and you just eat steaks and burgers. So I was like, I wonder if I can push the envelope of laziness and not cook. And at that point, I finally got off of food stamps and I was able to eat straight from the farm. And so I don't recommend anybody eating raw from the grocery store, but I ate directly from the farm, fresh, regenerative, grass-fed, grass-finished beef and beef fat. And I ate raw for 3.5 years. And it was bliss. It was absolute bliss. It was so easy. It was so simple. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And I would every once in a while go out with my family and I could go to a steakhouse and eat a steak, or I could go to a place and eat a burger. It didn't kill me, but I couldn't wait to get back to my raw beef. And then 7 months ago, I don't know how long it's been, probably about 7 months ago, all of a sudden I went to go put my normal food in my mouth and I couldn't eat it. I started gagging. It was so gross to me. Like, it was just disgusting. And I was just like, okay, that's weird. Maybe I'm going through a phase. I've tried to reintroduce raw meat 12 times and I still have not been able to do it. So for the past 7 months, I've been eating cooked beef and beef fat.
And is that like once a day, twice a day, or just whenever you feel hungry?
That's been another part of my journey that I did not expect and I did not intentionally seek, was that fasting has become part of my practice. It started out natural. Like, I just would not want to eat 3 meals a day. And I would just want to eat 2 meals a day. And then I would just want to eat 1 meal a day. And then I'd want to skip a day. And then I started learning more about dry fasting. And so now sometimes I'll dry fast for like 80 hours. And the connection that I feel with my body and my mind is next level. Just to have that mind heart coherence, mind body coherence. It's just absolutely incredible. So I don't intentionally fast, but it happens a lot. So I don't really have a typical day of eating. I really don't know from one day to the next how it's going to be.
And your brother's still doing this too?
Yes.
Wow. What do the rest of the family think about it?
Yeah. So my brother and I believe that we probably saved our father's life. He had congestive heart failure, and he was always struggling with his weight. And whenever both my brother and I went carnivore and transformed our lives, my dad got on board, and my dad has been carnivore. He lost 70 pounds. His congestive heart failure is absolutely managed now. He's doing great. I don't even think he's on medications. Like, he's doing excellent. And so it's been really, really encouraging to see that.
That's awesome. So in your coaching business now, do you have friends who or peers you used to work with who are kind of interested in what you're doing?
No, not at all. They I don't know what they think, but they're not receptive. They are under the belief that food has nothing to do with your mental health, and that nobody is going to have better results in their therapy if they address their food. And I mean, if you don't have eyes to see and ears to hear, all you got to do is go on YouTube and put Emily Penton and get like 100 videos of me telling it. So that's why I started YouTube, because I knew that I was going to save my breath and not talk to my colleagues. And I was just going to talk to the people that are ready to listen. And I'm sorry for them, but I'm here. If they want to come watch my YouTube, they can come watch my YouTube. And they can reach out, but they haven't.
Yeah, I'm interested to know what you think about this, because I feel like that the kind of attitude that they may have, it's probably something I was guilty of a few years ago even, and that's just assuming that food would have nothing to do with it, because when you go to the doctor never talks about food. They give you medicine, and it's like medicine's like a switch. It's like you take it and it fixes something that takes the pain away or resolves the problem. How would food have anything to do with this? Would have been my thinking. Do you feel that's probably the way they look at it?
Well, and again, I don't want to get too much into this, but I think it's intentional. I think that we are under dietary warfare, and that it was very intentional to shift the narrative on our food and the conditioning through addictive substances that was put in our food. And so it was a perfect storm, and it performed magnificently. You have an entire world that is numbed out by sugar and processed food, and they are literally incapacitated. It worked. Well done. Whoever came up with that plan, good job, you. Dietary warfare was successful.
Yeah, I mean, it worked really well, because you could be eating all the Doritos, all the Fruit Loops, all the whatever, and no one will bat an eyelid. But as soon as you go, I'm eating only steak, that's when everyone's like, no, you're gonna do yourself some damage now.
Yeah. And oh my gosh, the lie about cholesterol. I mean, that's been the most interesting thing, because I believe that they actually have fabricated the healthy range of cholesterol so that they can say, oops, you're out of the range. We got to put you on a statin. Because I have had clients who were able to have complete conversations, sentence structure fine. They get on a statin and they're like, I was, what was I saying? Like, they're not online anymore. So I believe it has been intentional to villainize cholesterol and to say, oh, you need this statin. And then also to realize that cholesterol is the vehicle that is needed for hormones and for chemicals in our body. Like, cholesterol is the lube that our body needs to function. It's the oil.
Yeah, and I heard somewhere, I was watching a video recently. There was a lady talking about in the 70s, 300 or 350 cholesterol was normal. And then statins were introduced, and then gradually that numbers just got lower and lower and lower. And it's like, yeah, this is all just business.
It is. It's a corporation.
What would you say to someone who is thinking about starting Carnivore? How would you advise them?
Yeah, I have found the most successful mode of operation is to get a team. And I offer free support group meetings every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Central Time, and they're free, because I realize that this is so difficult to go against the grain, and to make a decision to take back your health. It's literally like swimming upstream. And so at first you feel like a crazy person. And so it helps to have that support group to just, even if you don't talk, even if you just come to the Zoom meeting and you keep your camera off and you just listen to other people's stories. Oh my gosh, it's so awesome. And then whenever you can raise your hand and you can ask a question to somebody like me I've been a carnivore coach, low carb coach, whatever you want to call me, for over 5 years. And so I have just a plethora of experiences with my clients and then my own story. And so just getting into an environment where you can surround yourself with channels like this, get that in your algorithm. Watch a channel like this, like it, comment on it, share it with somebody else. Get that in your sphere. Get that on your radar. And then follow Dr. Anthony Chafee, Dr. Sean Baker, Kelly Hogan. Go follow all of these people and see their stories, see their posts, comment on their stuff. Get involved in that network. And then it will, by process of osmosis or just being around it, it will be easier for you to transition into taking back your health.
Yeah, nice advice. So a lot of people that are considering carnivore, and especially the critics of carnivore, would say one of the biggest problems with this diet is it's so restrictive. How would you answer that?
I love that question. I love that question because what is restrictive is not being able to walk. What is restrictive is not being able to talk. What is restrictive is not being able to swallow, to think, to have a successful marriage, to stay in a job without being fired, to get through a day with not wanting to commit. That's restrictive. That is prison. That is hell. This is a piece of steak. And I have so much freedom of food freedom. Before, I would think about food every 2 to 4 hours. I would always be planning my next meal. I would always be thinking about my next hit, my next hit, my next hit. Now, I can't tell you the last time I ate. I think it was this morning. No, it was yesterday. See, I don't even remember. And it's like 4:00. And I don't remember the last time I ate because food is not my entertainment. It is just the fuel that I put in my body to function. And so that is food freedom. And that's not restrictive at all.
It's a small price to pay for giving up the chocolate bars and candy, right?
Yeah, so much, so much. Oh, and then of course, my favorite is the carnivore bar. Have you ever had the carnivore bar?
No, I haven't.
Oh my gosh, they are amazing. It's pemmican. Have you ever heard of pemmican?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. Is that like a mixture of tallow and beef?
Yes, it's tallow and ground beef. And then I've been to their factory. They're in Columbia, Missouri. And they put it in a form, and then it just makes this this just bar, and it's tallow and ground
That
beef.
looks great.
It's so good. It's so good. It's delicious. And so stuff like that, the carnivore bar, that can be your luxury, your go-to, your fun thing that you do or eat. But if you do go to thecarnivorebar.com, use code Emily10 and you'll get 10% off. And if you do a subscription, you get another 15% off. So that's 25% off if you go get the carnivore bar. I didn't mean to do a commercial. Sorry.
Nice. So, well, I mean, that's probably a good moment to talk about how can we find you, and how can people reach out to you if they want to get coaching or want to discuss anything.
Yeah, I make it really easy. It's just emilypenton.com. And you'll find all of the links there. There's the link to my free support group is there. There's a link to find out what it's like to actually work with me for 2 months. Because what I do is I have an initial call, and that's just a one-off. Like, I don't have like multiple sessions with people. It's just a one-off to see if I can just solve your problem with one shot. And I have had hundreds of people that I've had one call with them. They send me an email a month later and they're like, you changed my life. Or they send me an email a year later and they're like, that one phone call changed my life. And I'm like, awesome, glad it could help. So I have that one phone call. And then if they are a good candidate to work with me, I work with people for a block of 2 months because they need to invest in themselves. They need to be committed to this transition. This isn't I'm going to eat, this for 4 days and then I'm going to binge for 3 days. This is you're in or you're out.
So emilypenton.com. Yeah.
Yep.
Nice. So I'll link to it in the show notes. Emily, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I really appreciate your time.
No problem. Dave, I cannot thank you enough for your channel. And for spreading this story. Like, I don't have the energy to do the interviews, to share the stories that it takes a village. It takes all of us to be able to just share our truth, just to share our truth, to share our story. And so I can't thank you enough for the service that you give humanity in having this YouTube channel. Thank you.